The studio is eerily quiet. Only the soft hum of a guitar string resonates through the room. The light is dim, almost mournful, casting long shadows on the walls. It's as if the room itself holds its breath. A single figure sits, guitar in hand. There's a look of calm concentration on his face. He strums a few notes. For a moment, nothing else exists. And then, almost as if the melody came from nowhere, the sound fills the room, simple, delicate, beautiful. Paul McCartney wakes up, and just like that, yesterday is born.
Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging.
But how did this happen? How did a song that began as an ordinary melody evolve into a piece of music that would resonate across decades? Was it coincidence or something more? To understand the real impact of yesterday, we need to look beyond the obvious, beyond the chart-topping success and the millions of covers. It's a story of simplicity, a story of vulnerability. A song that didn't follow the usual rules of pop music. It was a quiet revolution, one that would not only change the Beatles, but the entire musical landscape. Today, we're going to explore the untold truth about yesterday, the song that stunned the world. A piece of music so delicate yet so powerful that it still echoes through the ages. Was it an accident? Or was it destiny? There's a story we've all heard. Paul McCartney woke up one morning with a melody in his head, a tune that seemed to appear out of nowhere. But McCartney wasn't just one of the most talented musicians of his time. He was a man attuned to moments of inspiration. Yesterday wasn't written down right away. It wasn't carefully crafted or labored over. Instead, McCartney hummed the melody to himself, not quite understanding where it had come from, but sensing that it was important. The story goes that he initially thought it was a piece of classical music he'd heard before, and in fact, he was concerned that he might have subconsciously plagiarized it. But the melody stuck. It played over and over in his mind until it became clear. This was his song. In a twist of irony, the tune, which felt so familiar, was entirely his own creation. Here's the kicker. McCartney didn't even have the lyrics at first. The melody existed on its own, floating in the air like a fragment of something larger. The lyrics came later. In fact, McCartney himself would admit that he was unsure about the words for quite some time. He had no idea what they meant. They just felt right. Many have wondered about the circumstances surrounding the writing of yesterday. Was it just a stroke of genius? Was it an accident? Or was there something intentional about the way the melody materialized? For Paul McCartney, the song was nothing more than a simple melody at first, almost an afterthought. But that very simplicity is what would go on to make it one of the most influential songs in pop music history. There's a deeper story to this, though, a question no one has really asked. How does a song, one so simple and unassuming, find its way into the hearts of millions? And how did McCartney, at that moment in time, write something that would resonate so deeply? After McCartney composed the melody, the next step was to bring it to life. And this is where yesterday takes another surprising turn. It was recorded unlike anything the Beatles had ever done before. Known for their energetic rock and roll sound, the Beatles had never ventured into this territory of stripped-back orchestral ballads. But McCartney was resolute in his vision. Instead of the usual electric guitars and drum kits, McCartney chose a solo acoustic guitar for the song's core. But what truly set Yesterday apart was the unexpected addition of a string quartet. This was not a common feature in rock music at the time, and it wasn't something the Beatles had ever used before. This small, yet significant departure from their usual style turned Yesterday into a timeless piece of art. There was something about this combination of simplicity and grandeur that worked. The string section added a layer of sophistication that transformed the song. It wasn't just a folk ballad, it became something ethereal. McCartney, playing the acoustic guitar, was complemented by the delicate strains of the string quartet, elevating the song to a level of emotional depth that few other pop songs could claim. But this arrangement wasn't just about adding complexity for the sake of it. It was deliberate. Each note, each subtle shift, was meant to carry the weight of the song's emotional core. The stark contrast between the quiet, introspective verses and the sweeping strings created an atmosphere that was both intimate and expansive at the same time. At the time, Yesterday was groundbreaking in its use of classical instruments in pop music. The Beatles were often seen as the embodiment of the rock and roll movement, yet here they were, pulling from genres and sounds that were miles away from their usual identity. McCartney was carving out a new path for himself as a songwriter, one that would continue to shape his future work. This recording process, though simple in its approach, was as revolutionary as the song itself. But how did the public receive it? Was it too far removed from the typical Beatles sound? Did it resonate, or was it just another experiment? When Yesterday was released in 1965 as part of the Beatles' Help album, the world was unprepared for its impact. The song's public reception was immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Critics were stunned by its emotional depth and simplicity, a stark contrast to the louder, more bombastic sounds that dominated the charts at the time. But there's an aspect to Yesterday's success that we don't always talk about. It wasn't just a chart topper, it was a game changer. The Beatles had already made a name for themselves as the pioneers of the British invasion, but Yesterday marked a shift. It proved that the Beatles could do more than just rock music. They could create art that moved beyond the boundaries of popular music. The song quickly became one of the most covered tunes in history, and with more than 2,200 renditions by various artists over the years. It was a testament to its universal appeal, to its ability to transcend time, place, and genre. It was a pop song, yes, but it was more than that. It was an emotional experience, a meditation on loss, nostalgia, and longing. What made Yesterday so different from other pop songs at the time? What was it about this song that made it connect so deeply with people across generations? Was it the perfect blend of simplicity and elegance? Or was it the raw emotion behind the lyrics? In a time when popular music was defined by upbeat, high-energy tracks, Yesterday stood out as a vulnerable, quiet piece of reflection. The public, at first unsure, soon accepted it not just as a Beatles song, but as a piece of music that spoke to the human condition in a way that few songs had before. But that begs the question: why did Yesterday resonate in a way that many other ballads, even those with similar themes, did not? Was it McCartney's voice? The string arrangement? Or was it simply the moment in time that allowed this song to be born? If Yesterday did one thing, it opened the door for more artists to embrace simplicity in their music. Before its release, the popular music scene was dominated by rock and roll, with its loud guitars, driving rhythms, and an emphasis on performance. But yesterday proved that quieter, more reflective music could find a place in the mainstream. For years, ballads had been relegated to a lesser status in pop music. But McCartney's decision to create a song that was stripped down to its emotional core, without relying on the typical loud, fast beats, paved the way for a new style of songwriting that would influence not just the Beatles, but countless other artists. From yesterday, artists began to experiment with minimalist arrangements and more introspective themes. It wasn't about making something big or flashy. It was about crafting something emotionally resonant, something that could connect with listeners on a deeply personal level. For the first time, the music industry recognized that quiet, introspective songs could be just as impactful as their louder counterparts. But how far-reaching was this influence? Was yesterday really the catalyst for a shift in the music world? Or was it simply a reflection of the changing tastes of the time? Yesterday marked a turning point in the Beatles' career. After this, the band would never be the same. The song's success and the way it broke from the typical rock formula set the stage for the later, more experimental sounds of Rubber Soul and Revolver. It was the beginning of a new phase of songwriting for McCartney, one where he could explore different musical textures and experiment with the limitations of pop. And yet, without yesterday, would the Beatles have ventured into the introspective, folk-inspired territory that would come to define much of their later work? Could they have created Rubber Soul without yesterday? What if McCartney hadn't dared to write something so vulnerable, so emotionally raw? Yesterday wasn't just a song for the Beatles. It was a revelation. It proved that they could evolve, grow, and find new ways to connect with their audience. But it also raised an important question. What if McCartney had never written Yesterday? Would the Beatles have taken the same creative leaps? Or would they have remained the chart-topping band they once were? And this is where we return to the question that we began with. How did a simple ballad become so powerful? The answer lies not just in the music, but in its cultural impact. Yesterday didn't just shape music, it shaped pop culture itself. From films to commercials, Yesterday became synonymous with emotion, with memory, with longing. It was the song you played when you felt lost, when you wanted to reflect on what had passed. This cultural omnipresence is why Yesterday continues to live on today. It's not just a song from the past. It's an anthem that speaks to the human experience in a way few other songs do. And that's what makes it timeless. That's what makes it endure. And here's where we return to the question that started it all. How did something so simple, so quiet, change music forever? Was it the genius of McCartney? The perfect timing? Or was it something deeper, something intrinsic to the song itself? Yesterday remains a testament to the power of simplicity, a melody that started as a dream, that broke all conventions, and that still resonates with us today. It's a reminder that sometimes it's not about the complexity of the music, it's about the purity of the emotion. And in the end, that's what has kept Yesterday alive for all these years. The humanity it carries with it. And maybe that's the untold truth about Yesterday. The simplicity that allowed it to transcend time, place, and genre, becoming not just a song, but a universal expression of the human condition.